Thank you for joining us on another week of Beyond Real Estate. This is our real estate roundup on this Wednesday, and we're diving into 3 ways tech is redefining the real estate space. I think we can all agree it's changed the way we do things and how we operate. But again, what are 3 ways it's definitely made its presence felt? And I think there's no better person that I'm aware of to help us answer this question than our guest this week, Will Draper, who's joining us from back east.
Welcome to Beyond Real Estate with Jalen, the podcast discussing parenting, real estate, and business. Every week we go in depth on how to become successful in life and business. Nick, take it away.
So Will, let's dive straight into this one. What are 3 ways that you feel tech is redefining the real estate space?
I think the only constant right now is change, right? The technology is evolving so quick. There's always a new technique. Every social media platform releases new features every single week. And the only constant I really see is change. And it's really redefining real estate because we're constantly learning. And let me ask you guys a question. When you got into real estate, did you think you were going to have to be an actor, a filmmaker, a high-end videographer and marketer? Or did you think you were going to sell some houses? Right? Like, you get into this for one reason. I had no idea I had needed to go to film school just to sell real estate now. And it's changing and evolving so quick that we're always having to learn and grow. And I feel like now more than ever, having guardrails is absolutely necessary, right? Because there's so many different ways you can follow the technology and the platforms, and that the only constant is change. It's always changing and evolving. And instead of us watching YouTube videos on like how to sell real estate, you're watching YouTube videos on how do I shoot better video with my iPhone? Like, how do I get more followers on Instagram? Like, how do I do this and that? So that like technology shift, I think, it's caused us to have to go down a path that we probably all weren't prepared for when we got into real estate initially. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll jump in on this one. And this one stuck with me from a conference I attended when you were there and you were leading it, is Google, right? And it's such a dominant player, I feel, in our lives as a search engine, of course, but how that's reshaped real estate based on the tools that it provides. And not that we have to do it, but I think what a tool we're missing out on if we choose not to use it and utilize it to its fullest extent, because you've just taken a search, what was once upon a time simply a search tool to search stuff up. And now it's a presence to say, hey, this is a part of me and who I am and what I can offer you. And like you said, it's that constant change. And I think more importantly, that willingness to relearn, right? What we once knew is, yeah, that was the way forward. That's what we needed to do. And now you need to relearn certain skill sets or learn brand new skill sets to bring in your tool belt. And I think Google is 100% a massive player and can play in your favor if you allow it and if you spend the time to do it. Jay, how about you?
Yeah, I think there are definitely a lot of things that technology in real estate. Yeah, you guys touched on 2 big ones. And I think staying in your lane is probably the biggest thing that a lot of people will go down so many rabbit holes. And there's so many rabbit holes to like what Will was saying, but you can effectively become an amateur and then a professional photographer at the end of the day if you go down some of those rabbit holes. And there's so many other tools out there that can actually help grow your business, if that's what you're talking about. Or there's things that can help you. When it comes to tech redefining, I think just to answer it simplest, I would say it is customer client retention and contact in more meaningful ways than ever. I think the old days, and by old days, just a few years ago, of just doing, whether it's advertising or it's Facebook marketing, anything like that, where you have these instant just ads for the sake of ads, those aren't as effective because the market's become oversaturated with it. And so that's one way I think a lot of people don't realize that tech is redefining real estate space, because if you want information, there's so many ways to get information in real estate. And so now it's becoming more of a game of how can you better navigate the real estate world of information to fit your individual client's needs or your database's needs, to help them understand what all this news and this almost seemingly white noise of information that's constantly coming at them, how it actually applies to them in their instance. So I think that's one way that tech is really redefining the real estate space, is so much information that it becomes almost impossible to sort through it all at this point in the game. But what do you guys think of that?
Will, let's throw that with you. What do you
there's-
think of it having too much information and what that means for real estate?
There's so much information. I kind of alluded to it is people need guardrails because you can go down these rabbit holes, like you guys said a minute ago. And at the end of the day, all of this marketing, all of this tech that we're using to get leads, what we're not doing is having enough conversations. Like marketing creates awareness and opportunity, but it doesn't have the conversations for you. You have to remember at the end of the day, real estate's a contact sport. And the more people you talk to, the more business you're going to do. It's not necessarily the more ads you run or the more technology you use, the more business you're going to get. It all comes back down to the people. The marketing just creates the opportunity. So I absolutely believe in that. And another way this had me thinking of more information is like just different ways of doing business too, and like following up with leads. So AI and how it's entered our space. And I don't mean iBuyers. AI is in a lot of these lead follow-up systems with Real Geeks and Chime and Sync that have these bots that just basically respond for you. And it looks like real conversations. Have you guys seen or used these, right? Like they're like somebody goes to your website, and they have an immediate response and they have a full conversation. They basically book an appointment for you. You're like, okay, that was weird, but it works. And things like Jasper that write blog posts for you or write all these headlines for you, and it just does it for you. And then the last one there, have you guys heard of whattosay.ai yet?
Not what to say.
Have you guys heard of that?
I heard of Jasper.
Okay, so whattosay.ai, it's this new platform that I just started using, and it's even creepier of the creepiest, is you plug in your Zoom account, you plug in your phone, you plug in your email to it. It analyzes every conversation that you have. And after you have a conversation, whether it's via email or whether a phone call or a Zoom call, it'll send you a report and it'll tell you how engaged the other person was in that conversation. And it'll say, hey, if you want to convince them to do something, this is the way you need to do it. So imagine this. Imagine you have back and forth with a potential seller, right? Back and forth before you book a listing appointment. You look at it, it's going to say this person is convinced by showing them this and talking to them this way. It gives you a roadmap. And so for all of the people, so I coach real estate agents all across the country, and I have this plugged in, and every conversation I have with them, I review that report afterwards, and it lets me know if they were engaged in our conversation. So it shows us not only a transcript, but who was talking when, who was most interested. And if I want to convince them of going a certain way or how to get them excited, it tells me exactly how to do it. And darn it if it didn't right almost every single time.
Wow, that's wild.
Hot damn.
Yeah, it's definitely redefined how I like do my business and coach my clients too. It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, I want to piggyback on an idea and thought that you shared, and that is using technology as a tool and a resource to ultimately supplement what we do, not to do things in place of. So I think it's made things so much more seamless, so much quicker. And I think that's where the trap a lot of times for agents specifically, since we're talking about real estate in this episode, is that they just get lost in the minutia of so many opportunities to go on autopilot for them, but they forget, like you said, you don't have conversations, and now you've dehumanized those opportunities, right? A very slippery slope when it comes to utilizing tech.
Yeah, and I'll give you a perfect example of that. I was working with a guy earlier today, and he was talking about how he was sending out like Starbucks gift cards to some of his past clients at Christmas time. And I was like, that's great. I was like, so how are you doing? He was like, I've got this great app that just sends it to them via the app and they get a card instantly. And I'm like, okay. I was like, but what if you took the time to just take out a thank you, write a quick little thank you note, pop a card in there and send it to them? Which one do you think is going to land better? The one where you took the time to actually handwrite something and send to them, like very old school, or just send it to them on an app? Like sometimes you're right, it dehumanizes us. And this is a very human interaction based business. And I think we got to dial back the technology sometimes and just become a human again and have conversations and take the time to handwrite notes sometime. I know it's old school, but what's old is new again, in my
Sure. Yeah. And also for anyone struggling, if you are in the real estate world you're selling real estate, buying real estate, working with other people and need to build those relationships, I would recommend just using, again, to make it more human, using technology to help understand what's important to that person, right? And it comes down to just sending out a quick information questionnaire to them and just saying, hey, what do you like? What's your favorite sports team? What's your favorite meal? What's your favorite snack and drink? And storing that information to then when you do reach out to them, you can make it even more personal, because say they love Starbucks, and you're like, great, Starbucks is their favorite thing. I'm going to get them a $2 Starbucks mug that you can buy at any Starbucks, little plastic ones. They're good for like 200 uses. I have 1,000,001 of them of every color under the sun. I collect cheap things apparently, because those things are each only $2. And you can put a gift card in that and have it as their favorite team's sports color, because you know what their favorite sports team is. That's an extra $2 for you. And if you're dropping it off at their office or you're dropping it off at their home, just say hi. That's another way to elevate the experience that they have with you that no one else in their life is going to be doing that on the business side of their life. Hopefully they have someone in their life that loves them enough to actually do that for them on a just a semi-regular basis.
Right.
But yeah, you're trying to stand out, especially in a flooded market. That's the way to do it.
Yeah. One thing I tell all of my clients to do, and that we've always done in the past, is when we onboard a client like into our business, right, whether they're a seller or a buyer, we have them fill out a Google form that basically goes through all the information about them, like their birthdays, their kids' birthdays, their pets' names, their pets' birthdays. What's your favorite book? What's your hopes and aspirations? Where do you want to take a vacation to? Where's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite type of food? Are you pizza and beer? Are you tacos and tequila? Are you energy bars and water? What's your style? What's your vibe? And we had a client, a friend of mine, he's a dad, now divorced. So he's a single father, got 4 boys. And he's got a gluten allergy as well. And his kid's favorite food is mac and cheese. So I ordered a case of gluten-free mac and cheese and had it drop shipped to his house. That landed way better than texting somebody a Starbucks gift card, because I knew what they liked or important to them. So humanizing that, but utilizing the technology. So utilizing an easy thing like Google Forms. Send to somebody, and that supplemented our relationship. Yeah, so I use technology like Google Forms to bring the human element back to the business.
And for anyone that's, I don't want to spend, Jalen, you made a $5 Starbucks gift card into now, I can't ship that because that's going to cost another $6 plus the cup is $2. Now it's like $11, $12. If you have that kind of information that will, as perfect, anyone that didn't just write that down is stupid, of the questions that he asked, when you have that information, you can also just, if you see a news article that's related to that, you can say, hey, I know that you love Mexican food. There's a brand new Mexican place that popped up in your neighborhood. Have you gone there yet? I was thinking of trying it out, but wanted to see if you'd been there yet, or do you want to go with me? And that's something where it's like, you don't have to spend any money for that. If you know what their favorite sports team is, and you're like, hey, what's going on with the Eagles this season? They seem to be doing pretty dang well. Or what's going on with the Panthers this season? They suck. Is anything happening? New ownership incoming? No, Jay-Z still owns them? Okay, that's a more personal touch too, than just being like, hey, just checking in on you. How are you doing? Do you need to buy or sell? It's like, they're going to stop picking up those phone calls real quick. But if you can just shoot the shit with them about stuff that's important in their lives, you're going to get much better responses.
Yeah, I try to tell people, it's like, you only need so many lead generation systems and technology. What we all really need are better relationships. And relationships start with one-to-one conversations. And we don't need all more tools and all this extra technology. I think if you just focus on relationships, you're going to be more successful than anybody else around you if you focus on those relationships and just use technology to support those efforts, not lead the efforts.
Love it. Yep. Jay, I think you and I went down a path for the first time, and that is having an episode real estate related, driven towards agents and the industry versus necessarily the clientele. But I think it's all very appropriate based on having Will here to help us segue and move into that. So hopefully our listeners out there have something to take away. If you're not in the real estate space, would love to hear your thoughts on how has tech maybe redefined your ability to look for a home or sell a home. Would love to know your thoughts there. So please leave those comments below. If you felt like this episode this is irrelevant because I'm not a real estate agent, that's fine. But how has tech helped you maybe streamline your search process or your selling process? Love to know your thoughts there. You don't want to miss Friday as we delve into the business topic of, do you need a coach? I feel like there's so many coaches out there, life coaches for coaches. And again, we're going to have our guest Will join us as he's a real estate coach. So you don't want to miss it. Stay tuned for Friday. So thank you for joining on this real estate roundup. Until next week, this is This Week. Have a good rest of your day.
Hey, thanks again for listening. If you want to hear more of Jalen McKenna, Colorado's mortgage dad, and his take on the Colorado real estate market, or just mortgages and mortgage news in general, check out the links below.
Also, check out the links below for more information on products, books, or references made in this podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.